Ladies and gentlemen, before we call our meeting to order, I'm going to invite Mr. David Slider up from Grace First Presbyterian Church. David, would you lead us in invocation, please, sir?
Let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your creation. We thank you for little rain. Thank you for cooler temperatures. God, as we continue to be a community, we just pray for peace over this community, peace over our world, Lord. And we just ask that you would let cooler heads prevail, that, Lord, that we would always be mindful that we are here to represent you, to be your servants in all that we do and in all the things that we say. Lord, we just ask for wisdom and guidance this evening. Pray that you would give words that need to be said and words that need to be heard. Lord, we ask all these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, sir. Item 2 on the agenda is to call the meeting in order and announce we did have a quorum present. It's 6:31. All council members are present with us this evening. Item 3 is pledges of allegiance to the United States and Texas flags, and our Mayor Pro Tem Wilder will lead us in those pledges.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
Thank you for that, Mayor Pro Tem. Item 4 on the agenda is items of community interest. Council? You'll have to excuse me. I'm going to pull down my mask because I feel like what we have to say is important. I want everybody to be able to hear that's here, and I want to be able everybody that's here participating remotely to hear also. The right to assemble and protest peacefully, regardless of individual opinion, is a right that is granted by our Constitution, and it's something we fully support in the city of Weatherford. This past Saturday, July the 25th, the citizens and business community of Weatherford witnessed terrifying, disturbing, and careless actions unfold at the steps of the Parker County Courthouse. The inappropriate actions that occurred are not condoned in any shape, form, or fashion by the city of Weatherford, its mayor, its city council, its citizens or business community. Weatherford is a strong community that has been built on values such as quality of life, family, kindness, and public safety for all citizens. The lawlessness that occurred Saturday night placed our local businesses, local citizens, and public safety personnel at tremendous risk. The vast majority of protesters on both sides traveled to our community to address a challenge that only our county leaders have the ability to resolve. The responsibility to resume healthy dialogue within our community requires formal action and implementation by Parker County Judge Pat Dean and the Commissioner's Court. In saying that, the matter associated with the statute is not as simple as it may seem. As a matter of fact, it's actually quite complex. The statute is positioned on county property, but it's not owned by the county. The Daughters of the Confederacy own the statue and do have intentions to move the statue as soon as possible. But at this time, they don't have the funds to relocate the statue. Regardless of the complexity, county leaders must develop a solution and implement a plan to relocate the statue from the city of Weatherford, which happens to be in Parker County. This is not an issue that the city of Weatherford has the ability or authority to resolve. At this time, with the full support of the City Council, as the Mayor of Weatherford, Texas, I formally request that County Judge Pat Dean and the Commissioner's Court publicly approve a date-certain action plan with the Daughters of the Confederacy to have the statue relocated Item 5 on the agenda is presentations and proclamations. 5A is a report from Shandor Gardens Foundation regarding their activities. Will the representative from Shandor Gardens please come forward? Mr. Warren. And I think they have your presentation ready. Let's make sure we get that where you're comfortable with it.
I assume I am distanced enough from everyone that I can take this off for clarity.
And there are wipes there if you want to wipe the podium down, but I think they've already done that. Mr. Warren, I know that you're from here, but just on the record, I want to remind you that you have 5 minutes, okay?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, we're ready.
And welcome.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Paschall and members of the City Council. My name is Bill Warren, and I'm a resident of Weatherford at 605 South Waco. I am here this evening representing Shandor Gardens Foundation with the purpose of obtaining reaffirmation of your support for the Foundation's initiative to develop the 13.5 acres west of the current Shandor Gardens in partnership with the city. We received your support by unanimous consent on October the 13th of 2014 for our first phase. The Foundation would like to stress the word partnership, the partnership aspect in our mission statement, and say thank you for supporting the city, for supports that the city has given and the council has given us. In fact, the partnership has been a defining part of the accomplishments of Shandor Gardens and the Foundation. Some examples of that partnership are we've provided trained docents to lead scheduled garden tours, assigned volunteers to all rooms of the open house events and supplement city staff at other events, provided funding, marketing, and volunteer staff at multiple arts and cultural events. Over 20 events in the last 2 years have included diverse speakers, locally and nationally recognized art events, and internationally recognized artists. The success of this partnership is reflected in the prestigious Texas Recreation and Park Society State Award for Arts and Humanities, presented in February of this year to the City Parks Department. This award represents the unique collaboration between the Clyburn Shandor Gardens Foundation and the city, and we can all be very proud of this award. We feel it is imperative to ask for reaffirmation of support due to the recent staffing decisions. The most concerning to us is eliminating the dedicated manager at Shandor Gardens. Ironically, this is the opposite of the recommendation given in the City Commissioned EMD consulting report of August of 2019. It states that eliminating the position could, and I quote, would do more harm than any short-term savings and result in long-term negative implications for the quality of programs and visitor experience. This decision has already created a perception within the community that the city has decided that it is no longer interested in making Shandor Gardens an arts and cultural venue, and instead would rather relegate it to be just another municipal park. Shandor Gardens is part of the quality of life of this community, supported by master gardeners, the Foundation and Friends, the Historical Commission, the Heritage Society, and by the thousands of guests who have toured the gardens and attended events. It is by far, as you probably know, the #1 tourist attraction in Parker County, and it brings visitors from all over the state, all over the country, and all over the world. We fear that without a dedicated and qualified manager-director, the combined community engagement, enthusiasm, and momentum that this partnership has produced will wither, and that the emphasis the on-site manager brings to grow Shandor Gardens as a centerpiece for beauty, art, and culture will not be sustained. Shandor Gardens is a National Register property. It's an invaluable asset to the city. It's an icon for the city. It represents the city's diverse history and culture. It is an oasis that has the proven ability to provide art and cultural experiences to all ages and demographics. We wish to draw attention to the following key points from the consultant's report, and I quote, Shandor must deliver a high-quality experience to sustain and build its reputation. Providing quality customer experience is vitally important if it seeks to increase the number of visitors, renters, members, donors, and volunteers. Another quote, the ideal long-term staffing for Shandor includes a dedicated entrepreneurial manager-director who will ensure that the physical space and programming are maximized. And another quote, a strong link with the visual and performing arts should be developed with an art culture plan. These can provide new revenues. We ask you reaffirm working with the foundation to preserve the gardens for future generations engage with Ben or Bennett with us to complete a master plan to include a financial sustainability plan and probable cost estimate, and if feasible, move to complete the first phase. Given the rapid urbanization of Parker County, we implore you to think strategically about the gardens, have it documented in the general plan, and make future financial commitments to make this a reality. I thank you very much for letting me speak tonight, and I look forward to future dialogue with the City Council.
Mr. Warren, thank you for being here and for the folks that care so heartfelt about Shandor Gardens as our council does. You covered a lot of material in less than 5 minutes. Thank you very much, sir.
There it is.
Appreciate it, Mr. Warren. Thank you. We do have a speaker card for 5A. Christy Tull. Christy, are you here with us? Well, come on up, ma'am. If you come forward to the microphone, and once you get settled up here, if we can have your name and address for the record, take your time, and then once you get settled and start, we'll give you 3 minutes. Is that okay? All right. And you can pull your mask down if you want to.
My name is Christy Tull. I'm a resident of Parker County for over 30 years, and I moved into the city of Weatherford when I retired 4 years ago. And at that time, I became aware of Shandor Gardens and all of the things they were doing. I joined as a friend of Shandor Gardens and have participated in some, but couldn't possibly attend all of the things that they do. There's everything from garden appreciation to the great Clyburn presentations, the chamber music, literature, readings from living authors, children's programs, paint programs, there's actual well, I was disappointed that I couldn't take part in the Shakespeare program that I was enrolled in, and also a portraiture program that I was enrolled in because of the virus. But I am looking forward to these things resuming. And I urge the city to realize what a cultural and recreational place they have to develop in an almost unlimited way, because they have the room, they have the stature, they have the history, and the citizens certainly are behind it. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to let you know, from just an average person here in Weatherford, that's not flamboyantly wealthy or has some particular axe to grind. I just want to enjoy the gardens and see it's there for everyone. That's it. I'll answer any questions. Oh, my address, 602 West Columbia Street.
Well, Ms. Tull, we thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We don't really respond or do any questions during this period of time, but thank you for being here and having the courage to come forward and give us your thoughts. That's why we have these periods of time during our meetings. So thank you for being here.
Thank you
Appreciate
for calling me, sir.
You're welcome. 5B on the agenda is a presentation of Project of the Year Award from the Texas chapter of the American Public Works Association for the College Park and Martin Drive Roundabout. Manny Palacios.
Mayor, Council, Mary Palacios, Director of Transportation and Public Works. I'll take this off because it's kind of hot. So basically we got another award from the American Public Works Association, Texas chapter. And I did prepare a short video, but first of all, I want to thank the council for your commitment to transportation projects. I want to thank the Weatherford College Board for working with us to make this project happen. And lastly, our TPW staff and our city staff to working together, from utilities, electric, and everybody work together to make this project happen. And so I just want to play a short video just to kind of give you an overview of what And Mayor, here's the award from the American Public Works Association, Texas chapter. Usually this under the transportation category, under $2 million. So basically, we submitted our information at the beginning of the year, and we were selected. So,
Congratulations. Thank you so much for that presentation, and thank you for the quality work that the department does. Item 6 on the agenda is approval of the minutes. 6A is considered approval of the minutes of the City Council meeting held July the 14th of 2020. Motion for approval by Mayor Pro Tem Wilder, second by Matt Tiskus. Any discussion on 6A before we call for a vote? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote this time on 6A. Indicate yea or nay, please. Passes unanimously. Item 7 on the agenda is consent agenda items. We have 7A, B, and C. Council, we can split those up or hear them as a body. Do you have a preference?
All be good, fine.
Take them all.
Okay, we'll hear them as a body.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Councilman Cleveland for 7A, B, and C. Does your second correlate directly, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any discussion on consent agenda items before we call for a vote? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote this time. 7A, B, and C. Indicate yea or nay when the opportunity presents itself. Consent agenda items pass unanimously. Item 8 on the agenda is public hearings. 8A is told a public hearing and consider approval of ordinance O2020-37, a request for a zoning district change from AG agricultural to R1 one-family residential, and general plan amendment from MW manufacturing and warehouse to SL suburban living for the site located on the east side of Tin Top Road and south of BB Fielder Road, described as 42.14 acre tract of land, being a part of the J.P. Hart Survey, abstract number 592, the J. Beverly Survey, abstract 74, and the HRS J. Beverly Survey, abstract number 175, City of Weatherford, Parker County, Texas, ZCH 2020-0007. Welcome, Mr. Kettner.
Yes, Mayor and Council, you have before you this request for this general plan amendment and zoning change for the 42.14 acre tract of land, which is house a 118 lot single family subdivision. And you have the complete staff report in your packet. This did go before the Planning Commission at their July 8th, 2020 meeting, and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval 7-0 of the general plan amendment from manufacturing warehouse to suburban living, and the zoning district change from agriculture to one-family residential. And this was recommended by staff as well for approval. If you have any questions, be glad to answer any.
Questions for Mr. Kettner? We do have to have a public hearing, but we can ask him questions first and or after. No questions before a public hearing. At this time, we'll open a public hearing on item 8A specifically. Ms. Knoll, we have your speaker cards on this item. We'll handle our speaker cards first and then, okay, great. Mr. Bishop, Jordan Bishop, come forward, sir. You know the routine.
Sir. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Jordan Bishop. I'm with Jordan Engineering. I office at 104 South Walnut Street here in Weatherford. I'm a civil engineer here on behalf of the potential developer of this property, Mr. Tim Fleet. Caleb did a great job explaining our zoning request. We have a preliminary plat on y'all's agenda, a few items down the road here tonight. So just wanted to make myself available to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Mr. Bishop, we appreciate your willingness to be here. Council, any questions for the applicant's rep, engineer? Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Anybody from the floor would like to speak on item 8A under the public hearing provision, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing on item 8A. Council, any discussion on the item? Questions for staff? This does require your action if that's your pleasure. Motion on the floor for approval is presented by Matt Tiskus, second by Jeff Robinson. Any discussion on this item before we call for a vote? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote on 8A. please indicate yea or nay. Passes unanimously. Item 9 on the agenda is regular agenda items. 9A is discuss and consider adopting ordinance O2020-36, amending Title 9, Chapter 14, Public Rights-of-Way Management Ordinance. Welcome back, sir.
Mayor, council?
Did you win another award already?
I will. Give me
I like
2
that
minutes, I will. We can go ahead and start it. This is basically to amending our public right-of-way management ordinance. So basically, that ordinance is kind of gives us the right to regulate and to manage our right-of-ways. And so basically, all we're doing with this ordinance is amending, adding a section to where we want to make sure that in the downtown district, while we plan and future construction, we want to make sure that all above-ground utilities or facilities are underground. So basically, the downtown district is, if you can see the layout here, is basically covers mainly downtown, the central business district, and includes the Heritage Park property. There are several roads, and the reason is because we got Oak Street, Mill Street, and our plan is to improve those streets as well, and we want to make sure that anything that's aerial, we want to make sure that they're underground. So, just like again, we have a lot of planning. Our downtown streets, downtown square, the bypass, 180 corridor. I'll go ahead here in a minute. That was one of the recommendations. So this is what we want to do, and I showed you this slide a few weeks ago. But basically, you see all those utility lines, those power poles, they're all above ground. And here's what we want to do. We want to clear.
Can you orientate the audience of where that would be, like where they go and what they do?
Sure.
Like business-wise?
Yeah. So basically, this is downtown Weatherford. this is Church Street and Elm Street. We did this project about probably 6 months ago. And so basically, everything you see here is all the reconstruction to probably, include parking, ADA, and so on. And all we want to do is get all that visual clutter, put it underground, put it underneath the right-of-way, in a way so that way we have a good visual clutter. This
is right behind
straight
Shep's,
seeing.
right behind Shep's place.
Behind Shep's, Church and Elm Street, southeast quadrant.
Thank you.
And so one last thing, and this is also part of the 180 corridor vision plan. One of the recommendations for the downtown zone 1 was vertical elements, street lighting, and utility poles are creating visual clutter and limiting US 180's potential. So it is recommended to remove and limit future vertical elements, particularly in the area of downtown. So this is another main reason why we amending this ordinance. So with that, I have questions, take questions or comments.
Questions for Mr. Palacios? Well, thank you.
That's it.
Coming back up tonight, tell us about your third award?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. We appreciate you as always.
Thank you.
Staff does recommend approval of this item. I do see a motion for approval by Jeff Robinson, second by Mayor Pro Tem Wilder. Any discussion on 9A before we call for a vote? Hearing none, we'll vote at this time on 9A. Passes unanimously. 9B is consider a request for a preliminary plat located on the east side of Tin Top Road and south of B.B. Fielder Road, described as 42.14 acre tract of land, being a part of J.P. Hart Survey, abstract number 592, the J. Beverly Survey, abstract 74, and the HRS J. Beverly Survey, abstract 175, City of Weatherford, Parker County, Texas, SBD 2020-0034. Welcome back.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is the request that precedes the zoning that you just took place, which is part of the new processes that we're doing is making sure that we have a preliminary plat that goes along with the zoning request that's before you on new development that occurs. This preliminary plat went before the Planning Commission and also went and they recommended approval of this preliminary plat. You have the complete staff report in your packet with the conditions associated with this 42.14 acre tract. It's 118 lots, and just for your reference, was one of the items that came up at the Planning Commission meeting is the average residential lot size, excluding the parkland or the open space that's in there, is 9,300 square feet. per lot. And this was recommended approval by staff and by the Planning Commission. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer any.
Questions for Mr. Kettner on 9B, council? Mayor Pro Tem.
When it discusses the thoroughfare plan and dedicating a right-of-way, so it says you revise the layout as necessary. When does that happen, and are you dedicating actual land so that thoroughfare can go through, or how does that work?
Correct. There is a thoroughfare plan for the area, and particularly on Tin Top is what we're talking about. And so when they produce their traffic impact study, we will look at the impacts on that and what their proportional additions to additional right-of-way or improvements to Tin Top may be.
Okay, so, but they already have a exit out that way, correct?
As far as this is the preliminary plat that shows the full extent of the development, and I'll just pull that up here. So you can see the access points that are there. There are 2 access points off of Tin Top and an additional access point going to the east on the long panhandle that and cul-de-sac that you see there. That is their access points, which does meet our requirements. And the city engineer that may be able to clarify on the street access.
Yeah, the street access, I'm sorry, Bill Smith, city engineer. The street access is technically met with meets the engineering requirements. And I believe it meets the fire and emergency access requirements at this time as well. But I also wanted to clarify your thoroughfare question as well. The thoroughfare plan does call for an east-west collector as well. So they'll have to account for that in their plan, or their TIA will have to document that thoroughfare is not needed.
So it will be documented. I mean, I know thoroughfare plans can change at any moment, but we will have that documentation that says, should this thoroughfare plan go to this location, it's dedicated to us.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Great questions. Any others? Staff, thanks for your willingness to answer those. Council recommended approval by staff with conditions. That's your pleasure.
Motion to approve with the 6 recommended conditions.
Motion for approval by Councilman Cleveland with the 6 recommended conditions. Mr. Robertson, do you mirror that?
Yes.
Any discussion on the item before we call for a vote? Call for a vote this time on 9B. Passes unanimously with the 6 recommended actions. 9C is consider request for a final plat approval for Ranches West Phase 1, a 139-lot residential subdivision being 33.799 acres out of the John Davis Survey, Abstract 349, City of Weatherford, Parker County, Texas, SBD 2020-0038. Welcome back.
Yes. Mayor and Council, you have before you in your packet this first item, which is the Ranches West Phase 1 plat, which is a 139-lot residential subdivision on 33.7 acres. And you have the complete staff report in your packet with the conditions recommended by the Planning Commission. And this went before the Planning Commission at their July 22nd meeting and was recommended approval unanimously with all those present, with the conditions to be met prior to the certification and filing of the plat. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer any questions you have regarding this first phase.
Questions for Mr. Kettner on 9D with the 9 recommendations? It's an action item, council, if that's your pleasure.
I'll make a motion to approve with the 4 conditions.
Second.
Motion for approval with 4 conditions. My understanding was there was 9. as I read.
I'm on the wrong page here, I apologize.
That's okay, Mr. Robinson, I'm very well maybe myself. I believe I'm the one on the wrong one. I apologize.
There's 4 conditions.
Okay. For the record, there's 4 conditions on them. Your motion was to, unless we just want to add 5 more,
With the
right?
4 conditions.
4 conditions.
Less the other 5.
Mr. Tiskus, now that I've corrected my error, are you okay with that, sir?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Let's have any discussion, or do y'all want to take a vote before I mess something else up? Take a vote this time on 9C. I apologize for my error, sir.
No problem.
Indicate yea or nay, please. That passes unanimously with 4 conditions. 9D, consider request for final plat approval for Ranches West Phase 2, a 107-lot residential subdivision being 25.37 acres, 387 acres, out of the John Davis A-349, City of Weatherford, Parker County, Texas, SBD 2020-0036. Mr. Kettner.
Yes. Mayor and Council, you have before you this request that went before the Planning Commission at their July 22nd meeting, and you have the full staff report in your packet. This was recommended approval unanimously with all those present. The Planning Commission and staff recommended as well approval of this with the 9 conditions of approval on this request. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer any.
9D, Mr. Kettner, full staff presentation in your packet. There are 9 conditions on this. Council, any discussion on the item? Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with the 9 listed conditions.
Motion for approval by Councilman Cleveland. Is there a second?
She actually wanted to speak on 9C, 9D, Rachel's West.
Okay. Is there a second on 9D? Second by Mr. Tiskus. Do have a small point of order. We do have a speaker card that requested to speak for 9C and D. I'd like to call her up at this time before we call for a vote on 9D. Cindy Byington. Cindy. Hey, Cindy. How are you? Glad you're here. Thanks for your patience with us. And if you can get settled, and I know if you can have your address, and we'll give you 3 minutes. How's that sound?
Can I take this off while I speak?
That's your choice. You can pull it down if you'd like to,
Just so
whatever
I
your
can
preference
see.
is.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, ma'am.
Thank you. Cindy Byington, 1245 Glen Court, Weatherford, Texas, 76087. Back on April 9th, 2019, City Council had a meeting, and the motion carried that the drainage issues on the east side be addressed in Phase 1 because of Ranches West Phase 2 will adjoin to Glen Court and Westover Village Estates. Since that meeting, I've attended and spoken at every single planning and zoning and city council meeting regarding the effects of Ranches West project on Glen Court's pre-existing drainage and erosion problems. I've had multiple in-person, on-site, telephonic meetings with every contractor involved, professional engineers at Kimley Horn, as well as spoken to or met with many levels within D.R. Horton in some form or fashion. I can say for sure, the volume of information and the process has been overwhelming to learn everything from scratch. However, every person so far has gone out of their way to have patience, explain things, and provide reassurance. While the process has been slow, Glen Court is already seeing relief from the drainage and the erosion problems. We know that there's more work to be done, but the Glen Court feedback thus far has been extremely positive. We are deeply appreciative of everything that every person involved within each city department, D.R. Horton, and D.R. Horton's contractors have done so far, and we look forward to the end result. The Ranches West project with D.R. Horton and the Ranches West project with D.R. Horton being the developer and the builder, it seems to be showing good, strong community symbolism by them just being a good neighbor. I can't speak on behalf of other good developers or builders, but D.R. Horton is setting an example that should be followed. They're communicating, they're being honest, and their customer service is above and beyond. I am in favor of approving all 3 final plats so we can be the best neighbors that we can be. So this entire council, D.R. Horton, Glen Court thanks you each for listening, working with us, and including Glen Court as a part of the team. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy, for your participation and passion, too. Okay, at this time, council, do we have discussion on 9D? If not, we'll call for a vote at this time. Indicate yea or nay, please.
A vote with conditions, sir?
Absolutely, as presented, and the motions were made and seconded with all the conditions. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry for not clarifying. We do have a motion and a second on 9D. Go ahead and take that to a vote. I'll stand by just for a moment. Okay, audience, the vote was taken. It did not show on my screen at the time. The vote did pass unanimously. Never stop learning in this life, do we? Okay, we're going to move to 9E. Is everybody ready for that? Okay. Consider a request for final plat approval for Ranches West Phase 3, a 62-lot residential subdivision being 15.115 acres out of the John Davis A349, City of Weatherford, Parker County, Texas, SBD 2020-0037.
Mayor and Council, you have before you here the Ranches West third phase. This is 62-lot residential subdivision on 15.1 acres of land. You have the complete staff report in your packet. This did go before the Planning Commission at their July 22nd meeting, where the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend unanimously with all those present approval. And staff recommendation was also approval with the 9 recommendations on this request.
9E has been described by Mr. Kettner. Is there any discussion on 9E? Hearing none, council, we'll entertain a motion if you'd like to.
I'll make a motion to approve with the 9 conditions.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Robinson for approval with the 9 conditions. A second duplicates by Councilman Cleveland. Any discussion on the item before we call for a vote? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote at 9E at this time. Indicate yea or nay, please. Motion passes unanimously with the 9 conditions. Item 10 on the agenda is future agenda items. Council.
I do have one, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I would like to have a work session in the near future on the recycle program and a program for chemical hazardous waste.
Work session's been requested for the update on the recycle program and the program for chemical waste.
Yes, sir.
Council, Mr. Hotop, okay with that? Do you have any future agenda items you'd like to suggest for a future meeting? Okay, great. Thank you for that, Mayor Pro Tem. Item 11 on the agenda is work session items. Before we go to that, council, do y'all need to take a brief break, or can we move on to our work session?
Good.
Okay, great. 11A is a presentation regarding the solid waste cost of service and rate design study. Mr. Deal, good evening, sir. Thanks for your patience with us.
Honorable Mayor and council members, my name is Dustin Dill, Director of Municipal and Community Services, and today I'm here to talk about how the city is contracted with New-Gen Solutions to conduct a cost of service and rate design study for the City of Weatherford Solid Waste Division. Mr. Dave Yonke is here from New-Gen Solutions to go over the results of the study. There is no action required today, but we do plan to take council's discussions and feedback into consideration as we draft the ordinance to bring to the future meetings for your approval. So with that, I'll introduce Mr. Dave Yonke.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Did I leave this on, or?
Your choice, sir.
Okay.
If you'd like to wipe down the podium,
Thank
feel
you.
free with those wipes there. We want you to be comfortable.
Thank you. For the record, my name's Dave Yonke, Managing Director for our environmental practice at New-Gen. So what I'd like to do is just take a few minutes and walk through the solid waste cost, service, and rate design study that we conducted for the city. Our scope of services was to develop a comprehensive cost of service study that allocates costs to each specific solid waste service, which I'll explain in just a minute. Secondly, to develop a 5-year revenue requirement forecast that follows your fiscal year, so fiscal years 21 through 25, and then look at the revenues that are currently being realized under current rates versus the projected cost to see if you're going to be over or under recovering over that 5-year period. And then based on that, if there looks like there needs to be a rate increase, design rates that would recover those costs, and then present those findings to the City Council. So in conducting a cost of service study, 5 basic steps. First of all is developing a test year, which I'll show you on the next slide, which is the first year in the 5-year revenue requirement forecast. We allocate those costs to the service categories. Those are all the different services that are provided by your solid waste utility, and I'll show those in a minute. And then we calculate what the cost of service is. So what's the revenue requirement? It's basically a fancy term for what is your budget. It's at the starting point, it's all your operating and maintenance expenses. If you have debt service, you're fortunate, your solid waste utility doesn't have any debt, but then vehicle replacement. And that's a piece I just want to emphasize. A lot of the cities we work with, what they do is they put in place a system where they fund through their rates sufficient cash so they can set that aside in a reserve, so when they have to buy these new trucks that can cost $200,000-$300,000, you can pay cash versus having to do a lease. So we've done as part of this 5-year forecast what you have to set aside through rates so you can pay cash to replace your trucks on a regular basis. Here are all the different solid waste services that your city provides. Of course, refuse collection and your garbage collection, your recycling collection, which is done on a subscription basis, household hazardous waste, or HHW, as well as electronics recycling, and then brush collection and bulk collection, and then the disposal cost. These specific services, we look at all the personnel and equipment and allocate those as they are used to provide each of those services. And I'll show you that result in just a minute. Key thing I already mentioned, we built into the 5-year forecast is the pay-as-you-go funding strategy, so you can pay cash for your trucks as they come to the end of their useful life, so you have the cash available. So your total revenue requirement, if you go over the 5-year period, it's basically $2,927,000 in your upcoming fiscal year, and then it rises gradually to $3.2 million by fiscal year 2025. Just to give you an idea, it's about a 10.5% increase basically over that 5-year period. So, you're looking 2.5%, so it's very reasonable, and that's real good. So that was the overall budget 5-year forecast. What I want to do is show you what the cost is for the different services that you provide to your residents. So from a refuse standpoint, so what it costs to provide the garbage collection services, basically when you add in all the collection costs, disposal costs, bottom line, the total revenue requirement, if you look in fiscal year 2021 in bold, the $2,338,000. We just simply divide by the number of your residential accounts and your small businesses. So that cost is $17.49 per month per household. And you can see that cost stays basically constant for that 5-year period. So that's the cost of garbage collection. These are the other services you provide. If you look at recycling, the cost on that service is $10.54 per month per household. Now, before you look at that and go, what the heck? Keep in mind that is a subscription-based service. So what we've done, we've looked at the personnel and equipment that are associated with providing that service. So we've got those costs captured, but keep in mind, instead of having those costs spread over like 11,000 customers, it's only over that, if you look in 2021, 1,790 customers. So the effective cost is much greater, okay? Brush collection and bulk collection, talk about these. Again, If you look at these services, for those services, the effective cost, for instance, brush collection in fiscal year 2021 cost $208,761 for you to run your crews out there, pick up the brush. For your bulk collection, it costs $153,191 per year to provide that service to go out there to pick up your bulky and appliance items. And so you can see, if you look at the number of costs per the number of pickups, let me go through them. On brush, in looking back at your prior years, there are a little over 2,200 pickups that were done on average over, per year. So your effective cost is $92 per collection. On bulky collection, there are fewer collections, only on average about 880 per year. So your effective cost is $173 per pickup. Something very important to emphasize here, you don't recover that cost through those rates. This is very typical when you do these types of studies from an operational standpoint. Running out there to pick up those materials, it's not as efficient as just picking up garbage or recycling. You're not just going down the street and boom, picking up garbage one house after another. You may have different areas around the city you're picking up, and then depending what it is, a water heater, a washer, or a dryer, you just don't throw that in the back of a rear loader. So the cost for these types of services, it's very common to have this type of cost per service. What's good in your city, you do charge a fee for that. Now that fee is subsidized through your overall user fee. So if I'm a customer and I use bulky collection, I pay a fee, which I'll show you in a second, but then it's still subsidized through the $17 per month I pay right now, okay? You want to have that subsidy because the folks that use this service, they pay something, but then they don't pay the full cost. If you started charging people the full cost, you're going to have some people that say, I am not paying that. I'll pay $20 to get rid of something. You're going to charge me $170 or $150. I'm going to throw it behind the Quick Mart, or down in an alley out in the rural area or what have you. So this is very common. So if you look at the current forecast, so this is our forecast. If you look towards the bottom, you see in bold the revenue requirement. I showed that to you earlier. That's your projected cost starting at $2,927,000 in 2021 and growing to $3.2 million in 2025. If you do not raise rates at all, you're going to under-recover. You can see that over-under. You're going to under-recover approximately $428,000 per year going forward. It's really important. You have not had a rate increase for nearly 20 years. So to be honest, that you've gotten to this point and this is the amount of your under-recovery, it's really a good sign for how the solid waste utility has been operating on the $17 per month per household. But now it's finally time you have to start looking at this. Or we would recommend you look at this. So what we would propose is a $3 per month increase in your residential garbage rate beginning in fiscal year 2021. So you can see that would go from $17 per month per household to $20 per month per household. Here's the thing, you haven't had a rate increase for close to 20 years, and based on this and the forecast and what we have, and we always forecast conservatively, that's the only rate increase we're looking at for this 5-year period, okay? On the recycling, you saw that under recovery of $10 for that service. So again, we would recommend gradually increasing that rate, $1 per year. There will be still some subsidy by other customers of that service, but you want to encourage, or what we see cities that have subscription programs, you want to encourage that service to be there. If you start charging $10, people will say, yeah, I'm probably not going to do that. If you put in the recommendations that we made there, you can see from an over and under recovery standpoint, In fiscal year 2021, you're basically breaking even. You're losing less than $1,000. And then again, with that recycling rate just going up $1 a year, that helps along with the growth. I'm watching all those plats that you're approving with the continued growth on the system. You can see that you slightly over recover about $50,000 a year, which running a solid waste business, that's just money that then would go into the reserve. Last slide, just the other couple very minor recommendations. We would recommend your brush minimum charge right now is $10. We would recommend that be increased gradually, $2.50 per year, so to $12.50 this upcoming fiscal year, then to $15 the following year, and then $17.50 and $20. And then on the bulky side or the appliance collection, we would recommend that fee be increased from $15 to $20. For the fees you charge, they're very reasonable and comparable. So, you know, when you look at what other communities have, those fees can easily be, they compare favorably. And then just one other item then was, again, the city's been doing a good job from this standpoint, but looking at the ordinances for some potential, again, as the city continues to grow, some operational efficiencies. That's everything I have, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Well, it was an excellent and very thorough report. We appreciate you being here tonight to present it. Council, any questions for this gentleman? Mayor Pro Tem?
You start. First question I had was on the numbers. You presented the increase, which I agree is probably a needed increase, to get us to a break even under over. But then after that slide, you presented additional recommendations for brush and bulk. Are those brush and bulk recommendations factored into the under over number, or are those above and beyond the under over that you presented?
That is very observant. I should have put those before the over under slide. Those are included.
So without those adjustments as well, we still find ourselves under?
If you incorporate all of our recommendations, let me go, hopefully whoops. If you include those recommendations along with the $3 increase in the dollar, if you do all those, then this is the projection.
Good question. Mayor Pro Tem.
What impact would it have on if recycling, if we were to encourage, through your efficiency statement, we were to encourage the recycling program? So you said recycling is being subsidized by other customers. What impact and at what point, what's the breaking point that we would need to get the recycling program to in order to break even, so to speak?
So there's definitely, as you add more customers, there's, you know, you have that fixed cost. You have that truck, you've got a couple people on the truck, and so that's your fixed cost. You're going to have that no matter what. So if all of a sudden, and again, this is a cost of service study, so we didn't do an operational where we ride routes and do time and motion. We do that also, but that wasn't needed for this. But if you have the capacity to add those folks, then that just, you know, that helps to lower that fixed cost. That $10.54 then starts going down, assuming you have the capacity to pick up those extra containers.
That's a great question. Any others? I had a couple. The demographic information that you provided is helpful. Typically, demographic information is based on historical growth. Mm-hmm. Is that how this is founded, or tell me the basis for this demographic data?
So we looked at what your historical growth was, and we're actually putting the report together, and I apologize, I'm pretty sure that was 2.5% that we used for the growth, which was conservative for what you've got on the system. So I apologize for that. I'm 99% certain it was 2.5%.
That was just the point that I wanted to make to council and staff as we plan for the next 5 to 10 years, is that I think that data is always very conservative, especially in where we are in the life cycle of our city as far as growth. And so we see the plats that are coming through planning and zoning and city council, and that data may be a little bit short in projecting growth, but it's still relative to the overall numbers. We just have to extend it out based on customers.
And I will emphasize, because that 2.5%, it's a good growth. We work with a lot of other cities, it might be 1%, or we have some cities where they'll put in 0.5% or something. So it's a good growth rate, but you also have a smaller customer base. I was working with Phoenix 6 months ago. They have 400,000 households. You have 11,000. So to move 2.5%, you only have to have about 270 new households a year, more or less, to hit your 2.5%. And again, looking at the plats and what you're seeing there, it seems pretty reasonable and not a stretch that you would achieve that.
Okay. Another follow-up question, just to make sure I heard you correct, and I believe you said it twice, that I was studying your numbers. The replacement schedule for equipment is included in the cost estimation. That's on a cash basis.
Yes.
Okay, and that's on a 5-year cycle, you said?
Now, what we do is you have 7 frontline vehicles, so we do those over a 7-year life. A lot of trucks, if you look at what folks have their equipment at, they'll do, a 7-year life is the most common. We have some cities that'll do a 5-year or a 10-year, but the 7 year is the most common.
Is that based on potential residual value where they pick those time frames?
Well, and it's also, those trucks take a beating. If you think about it, that truck, you think your 16-year-old son, and I've had 3 boys, taking your Suburban out and braking it hard is tough on that. You take a garbage truck that's stopping 900 times a day, 900 times a day on those brakes. It's not uncommon for the maintenance to be $15,000 to $20,000 a year on those things. So what you tend to see is the life cycle of repair costs go up, so you want to start replacing that.
Okay. Great information. Those answer my questions. Council, anything else? We really appreciate you being here tonight, and thanks for your patience with us working through our agenda. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item 12 on the agenda is citizen comments on non-agenda items. Each speaker will be limited tonight to 3 minutes and will adhere to all the rules provided under Article 5 of the City Council Policy Manual, also known as Resolution Number R2019-18. At this time, I will ask our City Secretary, Melinda Knoll, to reach each of these items specifically to any members of the audience that choose to speak and all members in attendance. Ms. Knoll?
No individual may address the council without submitting a speaker card prior to the item being called. The card must clearly state the subject or issue on which the citizen wishes to speak. If the subject matter does not pertain, the presiding officer will advise the individual and/or make recommendations as to how they may get the issue addressed. Citizens speaking on agenda items will restrict their comments to the subject matter listed. Citizens speaking on non-agenda items will only speak on matters pertaining to city business or issues which the city council would have the authority to act upon if brought forth as an agenda item. Council may not act upon or discuss any issue brought forth as a non-agenda item except to make a statement of specific factual information given in response to the inquiry or a recitation of existing policy in response to the inquiry. Any deliberation of or decision about the subject of the inquiry shall be limited to a proposal to place the subject on the agenda for a subsequent meeting. Proper respect, decorum, and conduct will prevail at all times. Impertinent, slanderous, or personal attacks are strictly prohibited, and violators may be removed from the council chambers. No placards, banners, or signs may be displayed in the council chambers or city hall. Exhibits relating to a presentation are acceptable. Arguing, intimidation, or other disruptive behavior is prohibited. Discussion and/or debate are acceptable only on items specifically listed on the agenda. Unauthorized remarks from the audience, stomping of feet, applauding, whistles, yells, or any other type of disruptive behavior is prohibited. Applause of appreciation may be acceptable when recognizing a significant event or achievement. Council meetings are the workplace to carry out the business of the City of Weatherford. Therefore, any conduct that could constitute harassment in the workplace is prohibited. In all cases, the mayor will preside over the council meeting and ensure that proper conduct and decorum is adhered to. The mayor will preserve order and decorum and, if necessary, will cause to be silenced or removed from the council chambers any person speaking out of order or disrupting the order of the meeting.
Thank you for carrying us through that formality. We do have some speaker cards, and she's going to bring those up to me here in just a moment. And we'll work through these one at a time, and each of you will get 3 minutes. And we just ask that let's be respectful and let the person at the podium share their opinion, which they've waited so kindly and patiently tonight to have the ability to do. And if you're next, or if you have a blue card at this time, you'll sure be called up when it's your turn. All right, Cindy Byington. Cindy, you're speaking on a different item. Appreciate your patience and flexibility with us. If we can have your name and address again, if you can pull the mic just a little bit down. Okay.
Better?
Perfect. Yes, ma'am. Whenever you're ready.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Cindy.
Cindy Byington, 1245 Glen Court, Weatherford, Texas, 76087. This is actually on item 9B. I just have some comments. It doesn't affect any voting or anything, but I just want to put it on record, if you don't mind. I have brought up to the past two planning and zoning meetings valid concerns and real fears based upon what many have been going through for 4 years in our neighborhood. The applicant has not contacted anyone to ease or diminish any type of fears or concerns regarding Branch Creek. Why? I don't know. But this seems to be a project not getting started off on the right foot. I certainly do welcome 118 new neighbors to our community, and I support helping our current and new neighbors with water and sewer issues. Certainly, I support saving citizens increased taxes for costly future improvements regarding water and sewer. But I am opposed to building homes on a knowingly identified flood area, setting up future homeowners to fail, and creating more negativity within broken promises. I believe if we all work together by effectively communicating, making amends for past mistakes, and plan for our long-term future by making solid decisions now, then we can move in a positive direction that will make Weatherford a much stronger community. I'm respectfully requesting that the entire Branch Creek project, specifically the applicant who is named on the staff report, not Mr. Fleet, but on the staff report it is Steve Moore, Saginaw 40 LTD, to be watched more closely as to keep him responsible and accountable from start to finish. Should the applicant not stay within compliance of all guidelines, codes, ordinances, and any other directives, that he be held accountable to the fullest, most strict enforcement actions that are allowed. Let's all be mindful and aware. Let's start with a clean slate, but please do not let history repeat itself. Thank you.
Cindy, thank you for sharing your thoughts and for your patience with us tonight. All righty, Mr. Gray, James Gray, I think I saw you out there. How are you, sir? Thanks for your patience with us too. Mr. Gray, when you get settled, if we can have your name and address for the record, and then we'll give you 3 minutes once you get going, and you're welcome to pull your mask down if you want to.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mayor. City Council members, my name is James Gray. I live at 125 Myrtle Lane. That is Granbury, but I am considered a Parker County resident. So I want to read this to you. This is concerning the First Amendment for the protest this past Saturday. We are the Parker County Progressives. We are the group that's protesting the removal of the statue. And these are just some of the threats and the racial slurs that we've been made against community members, and we do not feel safe. And we are not safe. Zach Caldwell says, just remember, snowflakes, the South rises every day. We're the best part of the country. Prove me wrong. Long live the South. Just so y'all know, the police radio, they were told to let them get at it when the fighting started. But right then, the deputy was caught in it. That's what ended it. Dang the luck. Would have been a liberal massacre. Terry says, guess I'm just going to take the truck with the bumper guard this morning for a drive. Joni Barger says, maybe someone will put a chain around you and drag you off. James Spangler says, time for retaliation, take our streets back. Jim Glasscock says, vandalize their cars and see how they feel. Carl Lamb says, I see a high body count. Trevor Eastman, they should all be ran the F over. Ron Stead says, shoot to kill. Teresa White Bills, stand your ground and run the little monkeys out. Harry Hines, are you a black millennial kid looking for trouble? I think you may have found it. We're going out this week to fire 700 rounds of various caliber ammo It will be close to Weatherford, so don't be scared. We're just practicing for now. Connie McNeil Bunn, shoot them and let God sort them out. Ross Mormon Hahn, let them protest. We need to thin out the herd. Randy Lear, Lee, Crevet, I'll run their dumb A's over. Steve Davis, blacks are the problem. Hunter Daniel, I guess we're gonna have to lasso a couple of BLM protesters and drag them around the courthouse on horseback before these efforts get it into their thick skulls that we won't stand for that here. Want to find out? Keep pushing, I dare you. Jackie Aldridge, I wish all the BML pieces of S would have gotten their A's kicked. William Crease, it's gonna get good. So many guns up there surrounding them already. Good luck, BLM Bs. John Burris, let's let the cops sit this one out and show them how it's done. That way the cops are not on the trouble list. James Green, people that come to our town to start trouble, remember someone might follow y'all home. Just saying. And the last one, too bad you can still breathe. I'm in favor of a war. Let's get it over with. Thin the herd.
Mr. Gray, we appreciate you coming forward tonight and for being so aware of the clock too. We graciously appreciate that. I know that it was difficult for you to read those, but we appreciate you having the courage to do it.
Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Mr. Crawford, Tony? Thanks for your patience too, Tony. Once you get settled up there, we can have your name and address, and then you can take your mask off if you want to. And once you get going, we'll give you 3 minutes. Okay, sir?
Okay.
All right, thank you.
My name is Tony Crawford. My address is 4836 Fort Worth, Texas. I am a Weatherford through and through. Born and raised here. I no longer live here, but my family and my business is here. I'm here every day. What you just read was some of the threats you heard. That is the reason that I called and had conversations with PCSO and Weatherford PD. What I'm going to read to you are the texts between me and Chief Arnold for that day. This is the group you invited. It doesn't look good. Why do they need a bail fund for a peaceful and lawful protest? My reply, that's standard for most protest groups. You have my word. We will try to maintain the peace. I guess that they usually expect police aggressiveness. I would disagree on that being the standard for most protest groups, and there have been no police issues here, and yet we have the classic F the police post. There will be zero tolerance of nonsense today on either side. We will shut it down even if it looks like it's going south from either side. My reply, give me a chance to be a man of my word, Chief. I'll shut it down myself if I even think something is happening. Chief, I will give you a chance, but you have my word. You have my word. But this is not Dallas or Fort Worth, and this community won't stand for what's happened over there with businesses and blocking traffic. I absolutely agree. What I'm going to read to you are now the times and the replies and stuff from when I got to the courthouse. I was eating dinner with my family at Chili's, and I wasn't supposed to be there until 5 o'clock. I started getting phone calls telling me I needed to come to the courthouse at 2 o'clock because we had an advance team there to make sure that we would have a spot on the lawn. I'm here at the courthouse, it's packed already, 3:10. His reply, with Patriots or BLM? What does it matter? When you walk from the square to Cherry Park, please don't block roads and intersections. We can escort you for safe travel, but we can't allow a total shutdown of the road unless we are helping you get across. Heard a rumor that Dean was going to be there with a press release. Not sure what it says. Not true. Not sure how true that is. 3:28. The Patriots are surrounding us. We are surrounded by guns and people are loudly shooting us. 20 minutes later. 3:58. We are briefing now. That's from the chief. 30 minutes after I first contacted him. We have a live camera feed there. Word is the KKK are on their way at 4:30. 4:49. We should be out there soon. 5:46, where are the police, Chief? This is ridiculous. We are being abused. Where are y'all? 5:47, blocking traffic and dispersing everyone. You abandoned us, Chief. You abandoned us. You let us get dragged and attacked while you did nothing. His reply, we saw instigators on both sides and shut it down. Didn't abandon anything, and all of our recorded video will show the same. That's literally all I have to say.
Mr. Crawford, we appreciate you coming forward tonight, and I don't know who said that from the audience, but whoever it is has been warned. If that happens again, you will be immediately escorted from the room. You have been warned. Elizabeth Lovat?
Luvat.
Luvat. I mess up a name every time.
That's all
I
right.
appreciate your patience, and you're our last speaker card tonight.
Oh, okay.
Good to see you. If you can, once you get settled, if you can say your name and address, and then we'll give you 3 minutes.
Okay,
All right,
my
appreciate
name
it.
is Elizabeth Luvat. I live at 603 South Sloan Street here in Weatherford, 76086.
Get started whenever you're ready.
Okay, my name is Elizabeth Luvat. I own a home here and I run a business downtown, and I stand before you brokenhearted and angry. Racist bigots owned our town Saturday. We are all over the news nationwide, trending on Twitter and being called racist Weatherford. Weatherford's dirty little secret has been exposed. I have lived here 30 of my 40 years, and for those of you who are new here, who are unaware of the KKK rallies that happened until 1996, who are unaware that we are surrounded by hate groups, welcome to Parker County. I have seen racism here, but it does not speak for all who live here. Many of us here live a life that's inclusive and cooperative, but that is not what was seen Saturday, and that is not what the country is seeing now. As you mentioned, we were not prepared. There was not equal protection. We failed to provide a safe place for our youth and minorities to have a voice while allowing hundreds of people who felt entitled to stand in the middle of our town and display hatred and violence. I thank you for pressuring the county to act on this matter before more violence occurs. Saturday, while officials waited for a threat to come from outside, they assembled for hours right in front of us. We must learn from this mistake. We must learn from this failure. Otherwise, we will repeat the failures. The failure to protect those who want to be heard. The failure to protect the officers who attempted to control a situation too large. The failure to investigate and extinguish rumors started and provoked by hate groups. The failure to send a clear message that hatred will not be tolerated in this community. Many have said this is no longer about the statue, and they are right. A wound that never properly healed has been reopened. This is about decency. Hate groups are bragging they were victorious Saturday. I'd have to agree. They successfully sent the message that racism is very much alive here, and they will be allowed to show it. I am angry and disgusted they felt they had the right to represent our city in this manner. So what now? One thing you have already done, publicly denounce what was allowed to happen here Saturday, but don't stop here at this meeting, please. It is your responsibility, mayor, chief, judge, commissioners, even us citizens.
Elizabeth, respectfully, ma'am, you're out of time.
Please let me say my last sentence.
Out of respect of everybody here.
I'm the last speaker.
You are, and you have 3 minutes, and you use that time.
Mayor Paschall, I amended my speech based on what you said this morning.
Ma'am, I apologize. Your 3 minutes is concluded.
Unbelievable. I have one sentence left.
If you please exit the podium and have a seat. Thank you very much. We have no more speaker cards on the non-agenda items. As I said, each speaker gets 3 minutes, and out of fairness to everybody, we have to stick to that. Consistency is the key to failure.
It is your responsibility to ensure our never again used as a platform for hate. Why is this offensive? If you do not make this clear, it will be obvious to everyone watching who truly runs this town.
Council, item 13 on the agenda is adjournment. Entertain a motion if that's your pleasure. Motion, there is approval for adjournment by Heidi Wilder and second by Matt Tiskus. Any discussion on the item before we adjourn? Hearing none, we'll adjourn. We'll call for a vote at this time.
Mine is shut down, but I'm...
Okay. Jeff Robinson's a yay. Kevin Cleveland?
Yay.
We are adjourned unanimously at 7:46, I believe it said. Okay. Thanks so much, Council, for your service.